An ordinary city bus ride becomes a defining moment when a group of loudmouthed teenagers pick the wrong man to mock, an aging Vietnam veteran whose silence masks a past they can't begin to comprehend. The bus gave a wheezing sigh as it pulled up to the corner of Franklin Avenue and Oak Ridge Lane. Its doors creaked open, making way for another wave of tired commuters. One by one, they climbed aboard, shoulders slumped, eyes dull with the weight of the day. Among them was an older black man, his every step slow, but steady. The kind of slow that didn't beg for pity, but spoke of time and miles walked. In one hand, he held a well-worn wooden cane, polished smooth by the grip of years. In the other, a grocery bag swayed gently as he moved down the aisle. He didn't hurry.
He didn't need to.
His presence was quiet but grounding, like a tree that's seen too many storms to flinch at rain. He settled into a seat near the back and propped his cane against his leg. As he looked out the window, the soft golden light of the evening washed over his face, revealing deep creases, like a roadmap of a life lived fully, maybe painfully. Most passengers didn't notice him. A toddler peeked over his seat and offered a small wave. A young woman gave him a polite nod. But otherwise, he sat in peace, forgotten, yet not bothered. The engine growled as the bus rolled forward again. Inside, the air was filled with the hum of casual conversation, the rustle of coats and bags, and the occasional ding of someone's phone. But in the middle of all that movement and noise, the old man sat still, watching, remembering, the kind of stillness that holds weight, even if no one around knows why. But that quiet wouldn't last. The next stop came into view, Monroe Academy, and with it, a different kind of energy, the kind that enters loud and entitled. For teenagers burst onto the bus, laughing too hard, moving too fast. Their sneakers slapped the steps as they climbed aboard, backpacks swinging behind them like afterthoughts. Every word they spoke cut through the bus like broken glass, sharp, jarring, meant to be heard. They paused near the front, scanning the bus as if hunting for attention. And then one of them, a lanky kid in a backwards cap, snickered and pointed toward the back. "Yo, look at Grandpa back there," he muttered, loud enough for half the bus to hear. His friends broke into quiet laughter, nudging one another as they swaggered down the aisle. Passengers squirmed. Some glanced toward the old man. Others looked away entirely, pretending to be asleep or lost in their screens. The boys stopped just a few feet from him, their confidence oozing like oil on pavement. "Hey, old-timer," the one in the cap said, leaning against a seat like it was a stage. "Forget where you parked your wheelchair?" The old man didn't even flinch. His eyes remained fixed on the world outside. His hands rested gently on the cane, not clenched in defense, but anchored, as if grounding him in something far deeper than this moment. His silence, though calm, only fueled them. Another kid, shorter with a hoodie half covering his face, smirked. "That cane holding you up, or are you just afraid to fall apart?" The boys cracked up, loud and shameless. "Kindly do us a quick favor. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you are touched by this story. Your support keeps us creating and sharing more powerful stories as this one. Thank you." Now, let's get back to our story. Around them, the atmosphere thickened. A woman clutched her purse tighter. A man near the front furiously tapped at his phone, pretending he wasn't listening. No one moved. No one spoke. Fear and discomfort hung in the air like fog. But the teens didn't stop. In fact, the silence seemed to give them permission. They leaned in closer now. Louder. Meaner. Testing just how far they could go. And what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the man they were taunting wasn't just some old guy with a cane. He was a storm waiting to break. A story they were too young and too arrogant to understand. What happened next would silence the entire bus and leave an impact none of them would forget. "Bet he's carrying some cash," one of them muttered. A buzz-cut kid with too much attitude and not enough sense. He nodded toward the old man's grocery bag. "What you got in there, Grandpa?" "Cat food." Their laughter rose, sharp and obnoxious, echoing through the cramped bus. But just as their mockery peaked, something changed. The old man lifted his head. Slowly, calmly. No fear, no rush, just a subtle shift in energy that made even the boldest teen falter for a second. It was only a flicker, that hesitation, but it came and went like a blink. Feeling emboldened by the old man's silence, the kid in the backwards cap leaned in further, grinning wider now. "What's the matter, Grandpa? Cat got your tongue." He tapped the cane with the tip of his sneaker, just enough to taunt, not enough to provoke. The others cackled, feeding off each other like a pack of hyenas. Still, the old man didn't flinch. His hand tightened around the cane. His eyes, now turned toward the boy, locked on.
Calm. Clear.
Unshaken. Not angry. Not scared. Just steady and disturbingly quiet. The bus grew heavier. Tension crept in like fog. A woman near the aisle pulled her purse close. Her knuckles turned white. A man in a business suit cleared his throat but stayed glued to his phone. No one moved. No one spoke. The air felt tight. The old man hadn't said a word, but somehow he was the loudest one in the room. Then another voice cut in. "You deaf or something?" said the kid in the hoodie, leaning over now. "Maybe he doesn't speak English." More laughter followed, less confident this time, but loud all the same. The old man shifted again, barely. He straightened his back, planted the cane firm against the floor. It was small, but unmistakable. A gesture with gravity. A move that said, "I'm ready now." One of the younger teens, the smallest of the group, looked uneasy. "Yo, maybe we should chill," he mumbled under his breath. But the others ignored him. "You got a problem, old man?" The cap-wearing kid pressed, his voice still cocky, but now tinged with something else, uncertainty. "We're just messing around. Relax. Don't be so uptight." And then, finally, the old man spoke. His voice was quiet, but it sliced clean through the chaos like a blade. "Is that what you boys call fun?" he asked. "Harassing strangers?" The entire bus went still. No sarcasm. No anger. Just that eerie, grounded calm. And for the first time, the boys didn't have a comeback. "What's it to you, old man?" The boy in the hoodie snapped, his voice sharp and offensive, like he was trying to claw back control. But the moment had already shifted. The old man didn't flinch. He simply tilted his head, eyes still locked in that steady, unsettling calm. "I've met boys like you before," he said, his tone cool and deliberate. "Different time. Different place." They didn't laugh so loud when they came face to face with real fear. The temperature on the bus seemed to drop. The teens, who just seconds ago had been puffed up with bravado, suddenly looked unsure. Their smirks faded, replaced by side glances and forced shrugs. For the first time, they weren't so certain they had the upper hand. But the boy in the backwards cap wasn't ready to give it up. He scoffed, louder than before, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. "What? You gonna scare us with your cane?" he sneered. The words hung in the air like a dare. The bus groaned as it made a sharp turn. The hoodie-wearing teen stumbled slightly, grabbing a rail to steady himself. The old man, in contrast, didn't budge, his cane planted firmly, like it had roots in the floor. "You think this is what holds me up?" he asked quietly, his voice almost too calm. Then, with a small but powerful lift of his head, he added, "No, boys. This cane isn't my strength. It's just a tool. What holds me up runs much deeper." The boy in the cap laughed again, but the sound was hollow now, more habit than confidence. "Yeah? Like what?" he muttered, though the slight shake in his tone betrayed the crack in his armor. The old man inhaled, slowly, deeply. His eyes scanned each of their faces, not with judgment, but with something heavier. "Memory. When I was your age," he said, voice low and even, "I wasn't carrying a cane. I was carrying a rifle. Through the jungles of Vietnam." The word Vietnam hit the bus like a brick. Conversations died. Even the softest whispers stopped. The passengers leaned in, some out of curiosity, others out of guilt for having stayed silent this long. "We didn't get to joke around the way you do," the old man continued. "There was no time to act tough. We were already living with death breathing down our necks. Some of us never made it back. And those of us who did." He paused, fingers tightening around the cane. "We brought more than our gear home. We carried the kind of pain you don't see in scars. The kind that never fades." The smallest teen looked down, visibly uncomfortable now. The hoodie kid avoided eye contact. Even the boy in the cap had nothing to say. "You want to talk about fear?" the old man asked, leaning in just slightly, his voice steady but heavy with truth. "Fear is not being mocked on a bus. It's hearing a branch snap behind you in the dark and not knowing if it's an enemy or your last breath. It's watching your friend drop beside you and knowing you can't turn back." His voice caught for just a moment, but when he spoke again, it was with quiet conviction. "And do you know what else I carried?" he said, his gaze fixed squarely on the boy in the cap.
Discipline. Respect.
The understanding that true strength doesn't come from tearing someone down. It comes from knowing when to rise and when to stay silent. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was reverent. For the first time that night, they listened. The bus felt like it had stopped moving, even though it was still rolling. Every passenger was locked in place, not by fear, but by something deeper. A few dabbed at their eyes. Others looked away, pretending to be lost in thought. But the weight in the air was undeniable. You could feel it pressing down on everyone. From the group of teens, the one in the hoodie spoke first. His voice was low, barely a sound. "We didn't mean nothing by it," he muttered, eyes avoiding everyone. But the remorse was clear. The old man gave a quiet nod. His face softened, not completely, but enough to show he understood. "I know," he said. "But words aren't just noise, boys. They land. And sometimes they land on people already carrying too much." Before any of them could say more, the bus slowed again, brakes hissing as it neared another stop. The old man leaned back, silent once more, resting his cane against his leg. But the quiet that followed wasn't empty. It was loud in its own way. Heavy, thoughtful. The doors opened with a long, tired wheeze. Still, no one moved. The boys remained standing, no longer loud or proud, just uncomfortable. Their earlier swagger had vanished. Around them, the passengers who'd once stayed quiet now looked at the old man with different eyes. Some filled with respect, others with regret. The boy in the cap finally spoke. He'd been the loudest before. Now he was barely audible. "We were just messing around," he said. His tone was low, almost ashamed. The old man looked at him, not coldly, not kindly, just straight. "Playing around's fine," he said, "until it's not. And by the time you realize it, the damage is done. I've seen too many good boys lose their way over moments like this." Then the hoodie kid asked, "Did you lose people?" The old man nodded slowly. His eyes drifted somewhere far away. "More than I care to count," he said. "Some died in the fight. Others came home, but the war didn't let them go. Sometimes it never does."
He paused.
His voice lowered even more. "Strength isn't about who looks the toughest. It's about who survives what breaks others. And believe me, even the strongest men, they can crack when pushed the wrong way." Finally, the smallest boy, the one who'd been silent the whole time, spoke up. "We didn't mean to disrespect you," he said quietly. The old man didn't answer.
But he didn't need to.
The silence that followed said enough. The old man gave a slight nod, the sharpness in his expression softening just enough to be felt. "Disrespect isn't always about what you say," he said. "Sometimes it's how you carry yourself, how you treat people without saying a word. Don't forget that." For a moment, it felt like time had stalled. No one spoke. The rumble of the engine, the sway of the bus, everything paused. And then, breaking the silence, a woman near the front turned in her seat. Her voice was clear, but kind. "You boys don't know how lucky you are," she said. "Most people never get a wake-up call like that." Her words struck a chord. The teens looked around and saw the quiet nods from strangers, faces they'd ignored moments before. Embarrassed, they shuffled toward the front, murmuring apologies to the old man as they passed. No more smirks, no more swagger. When the bus stopped again, they got off, leaving behind their laughter and all the bravado they came in with. As the doors closed behind them, the old man leaned back, eyes returning to the view outside. But now, the silence inside the bus was different. It wasn't heavy anymore. It was thoughtful, peaceful. Soft conversations began to stir. A few passengers quietly shared stories, memories of fathers, brothers, or friends who had worn uniforms and carried their own battles. Others simply looked toward the old man with newfound respect. But he remained still, the same as before.
Steady.
Grounded, like the storm had passed, and he never flinched. The kind of strength that speaks loudest without raising a voice. As the bus neared the final stops, the mood had shifted completely. What started as a tense, awkward ride had turned into something almost sacred. People looked at the old man differently now, not just as a stranger, but as someone who had weathered more than they could imagine. The young woman across from him finally spoke, her voice gentle. "Thank you for everything. For your service. For your words." The man gave a small nod, his voice quiet but sure. "I only did what I had to," he said. "That's all any of us can do. But what matters now is what you choose to do. With the life you've got. With the time you've been given." The words settled like dust in sunlight, soft, but impossible to ignore. The woman smiled faintly and turned back toward the window. At the next stop, the bus slowed again. The old man stood, gripping his cane with ease. A few passengers moved to give him space, instinctively respectful now. Before stepping off, he turned to face them one last time. "Be kind," he said. "You never know what someone's carrying." With that, he stepped into the evening light. The doors closed, and the bus sat still for a second, until the engine purred back to life, carrying its passengers forward. But they weren't the same people anymore. They weren't just holding on to bags or backpacks. They were carrying a lesson, a story, a reminder that dignity doesn't always speak loudly, but it's always heard. And somewhere down the street, a group of teens walked home in silence, maybe for the first time really thinking about the kind of men they wanted to become. Because some truths don't shout, they echo. If this message touched something in you, don't keep it to yourself, share it. Let's create a world where kindness, empathy, and respect aren't rare, they're the standard. And if you believe in the power of stories to inspire, to challenge, and to remind us of what really matters, make sure to like and subscribe. More stories like this are just around the corner.